family. It is so beautiful to see you and familiar faces. You make us feel welcome and good, all right? And we're here to make you feel that as well. I'm happy that y'all came here to celebrate heavy music with your friends at Metallica. Because we are Metallica, and so are you. You know that.
Hey out there, rock and rollers. Welcome to the 142nd episode of the Ugly American Werewolf in London Rock Podcast. Brought to you by me, your host, Mac B. the Wolf, and I will be joined, as always, by my partner in crime from the East Coast of the United States, Gary Action Jackson. And we want to thank everybody who tuned in last week to our review of Goat's Head Soup on its, or near its 50th anniversary with a buddy Mark from Performance Anxiety. I think you'll hear that we had a lot of fun doing that one. We included the deluxe edition tracks, which includes a track that featured Jimmy Page, Scarlet, with Mick Jagger back in the early 70s. Mark really liked that one, and so we encourage you to check that one out. And speaking of having fun with guests, I think you're really going to love this show. We are really pleased to welcome to the Pantheon Podcast family, the Met Report. That's the new podcast from Metallica World Headquarters, from the band themselves, with longtime Metallica and music journalist veterans Steffan Chirazi and Renee Richardson coming at you every week with tidbits about the band, what's going on the road, introducing you to some of the crew. Yes, you'll be hearing from some of the boys of Metallica from time to time, and to talk about the foundation, all within my hands, which is how Metallica gives back to the Metallica family out there, whether they need help with natural disaster relief, food banks and making sure people get fed, or even helping people get technical education and skills so they can become a more valuable member of the workforce. It's amazing all that they've done, all the people they're touching out there, and we're going to talk about that here on the show. But I mentioned that they're part of the Pantheon Podcast family, as are we. The Ugly American Werewolf is a proud member of the Pantheon Podcast Network, a network of about 100 different music shows, really something out there for everybody. It isn't all just rock and roll, and you can check out more at pantheonpodcast.com. And of course, we're sponsored by rarevinyl.com. And we're so psyched to see you guys making some orders on rarevinyl.com using the code UGLY, UGLY, which will save you 10%. I know we've got a lot of Metallica collectors out there. So go to rarevinyl.com. They're based in the UK, but they ship all around the world. They have over 250,000 items in stock. And so if you're looking for imports from different parts of Europe, maybe you're looking for a special box set that's hard to find, maybe a first edition that's rare, or a picture disc, go to rarevinyl.com, guys. Use the code UGLY. You can only use it once, so don't just get one thing. Get a bunch of things and save yourself 10%. That's code UGLY at rarevinyl.com. Now back to Steffan and Renee. I think you're going to find them fascinating. Steffan's been a music journalist since he was a teenager, hooked up with Metallica at a very young age, left his native England to come to America, and has been working with and around the band ever since. And Renee Richardson, well, she worked at K-Fox. She was a killer DJ for many years. Also has worked a long time in charitable and nonprofit foundations. And now she heads up the All Within My Hands Foundation for the band. They've launched the Met Report. They've done a couple of episodes as we record this, reporting from the band on the road. They got to go to East Rutherford, New Jersey, and as this comes out, you're going to have a chance to go to theaters to see the Arlington shows, the ones from Jerry World where the Dallas Cowboys play. They'll be in theaters on Friday, August 18th, and Sunday, August 20th. They'll be doing some recording there of their own podcast, getting ready for those shows. It's a big deal. If you don't know about the Metallica 72 seasons, then you didn't hear episodes 127 and 128 when I went to Amsterdam to see the first two shows of this epic world tour. It was amazing. You've got to listen to those. But now you got to listen to these guys. Listen to us talk with Steph and Renee of the Met Report right here on The Wolf.
Hi, guys.
Hey there.
Hello.
I'm Mac, and that is Action Jackson, depending on which way it's on your screen.
Which way you're oriented.
Yes, exactly.
In the box here.
But welcome to both of you. And just to quickly answer your question, Steffan, I moved to England, and I lived in Westminster. I lived 6 blocks from Abbey Road Studios.
Yeah,
which was awfully nice. And then we moved to Amsterdam, and I'm like, this is great. I'm going to live in Amsterdam for a few years.
That's great. That rules.
Bought tickets to the first 2 nights of this epic tour that the boys are on. And then a week before Christmas, he said, you know what? We're going to need you to go ahead and move back to the States. I'm like, oh, fuck you. I'm not going. I'm not going. And I'm like, okay, well, I guess, we can't really say no. I guess I can get an airline ticket back to see the boys in April, which I did. And it was epic.
Wow. So you bounced around the last few years. Yeah, no, this all started, Renee, because I was saying to Mac that I love the film. I love American Werewolf in London. I mean, it's one
absolutely,
of my. Yeah. It's such a brilliant film. I've seen it many, many, many times, and I just love it. So it was kind of interesting to hear that Mac it was a name that came from nowhere, or like there were tenuous links. You don't love the film, right, Mac? It's kind of a casual.
Yeah, no, it's kind of like the Motley Crue thing. If you've got a famous name, you're already famous. So you take Ugly American, which I probably qualify for on once or twice a day, put it with American Werewolf in London. You put it together, and it sounds familiar, right? But it's actually unique to us.
Because of course, the irony is that David Norton, who of course was the American Werewolf in London, right? I mean, he'd be just incredible, very handsome man,
very good looking guy. Yeah, no doubt about it.
Yeah, had a bit of a problem with his hand extensions there. Do you remember this? Do you remember this film? I mean, still some of the best special effects you'll ever see when that hand is going. Oh my God!
Did Rick Baker do that? I think Rick Baker did that.
Yeah, he did. Rick Baker did do that. Mm-hmm. Yeah, John Landis film. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. It's so funny because I remember the film, of course, but I haven't gone back and rewatched it since probably
it stands the test of time.
It does. Okay,
it does.
I'll watch 100%. It again.
100%. Okay. Anyway, I should be quiet.
No.
No, please start this. Otherwise, we may never end it.
All right, fair enough. Well, we have that habit. Yes, no, it's all good. That's the way podcasters are, as far as I can tell.
Yeah.
But we are lucky today to welcome the hosts of the Met Report, the exciting new podcast from Metallica World Headquarters, following the boys on their epic 72 seasons tour here. We've got Steffan Chirazi and Renee Richardson. Thank you both for joining us here today.
Hello.
Glad to be here.
Yeah, delighted to be here. Thank you for having us.
Oh, you bet. And welcome to the Pantheon family.
Indeed.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah.
So we got a lot of different questions, and Jackson and I will kind of jump in back and forth here a little bit. But you both had kind of incredible careers, and we want to hear about both of them. But it seems, Steffan, that you've been with the band a long time at this point, right? You've been working with them for decades. I mean, before I even was aware of the band in the mid '80s. I mean,
yeah.
So what magazine is your baby, right? Can you kind of tell us or tell our listeners how that came to be?
Yeah, I'll give you the 2-minute ticker, and if it gets to 3 minutes, I apologize in advance. I started writing for the English Music Press when I was 15. I bullshitted my way in.
Nice.
And then in 1984, I suggested it was like the first paid piece I did. I suggested that we cover Metallica for Ride the Lightning. I'd reviewed the record for Sounds, and so I was whisked off to Paris, which is where I first met them.
Wow.
We got on very well. I then went on subsequent assignments for the next couple of years to do stuff with them. I went to LA to do them for the Master of Puppets record. That was memorable because a little fracas I had with the editor at Sounds at the time, who did not take kindly to my suggestion, Jay, that they should be on the cover, and told me I was an idiot, convinced me I probably wasn't going to have a future in England. I thought that I should come to the States, where it was maybe a little more freewheeling, it'd be a little freer. Cliff Burton, I'd run into in the offices for Music for Nations, their British label. He'd said, "Hey, here's my number. Call me when you land in the Bay Area, and I'll show you around." And he did show me around, and he met a few good people, very good people, still friends to this day. He didn't come back from tour, sadly, and but we all continue to hang out. So I did a lot of coverage of them over the next decade for other magazines, and I'd freelance for them.
Okay.
So What magazine actually started under the mighty Tony Smith in 1993, 94, somewhere in there. But he used to use me as a freelancer. So I would freelance. I pretty much did 80% of the editorial for that magazine until 1999, when it was handed to me because Tony moved on to do other stuff. So since 1999. So yeah, it's been a lot of time. Yeah, it's been quite a journey. Yeah,
I can imagine.
Was that 2.5 minutes?
That was under. You did good.
Wow. All right. I'm learning. I'm learning, Matt, because that could have gone on a lot longer.
Well, we've got to
There's a
learn
lot of
from
stories.
you guys. Okay. No. And we want to hear as many as we can, but we've got to learn from you because your first 2 episodes, which we love, we'll talk a little bit about, they're in the 14, 15-minute range. We're doing our damnedest to try to get under an hour every once in a while, and we're failing miserably at it. I just love to hear myself talk, and Jackson's just like waiting there. It's like, when's he gonna shut up? I got something to say, so.
Yeah. So my background is in radio, commercial radio. So I'm learning from Steph on how to use more words and talk a little longer because I'm trained to be just snippy snappy, moving along.
Right. Hit the songs, tell them what's up next.
That's
play
right.
that song, move it along. Yeah, no, I understand.
Get out.
I think there's a little more to what you do than that. I'm not going to let you away with that. You got to talk a little more about it. You didn't just show up and move the songs on. Come on, Renee.
Oh, yes.
Extend your arm behind your back and pat it and tell people. Come on.
So I will tell you, so my connection to Metallica started actually in the 90s, I would say. Well, before that, because my first show was late 80s in New York. But I moved to San Francisco and I got into radio. And I worked in radio at Live 105 and KFOG for 30 years. And along the way, I got to know members of the management team, interviewed a few band members for radio.
Sure.
And then I left radio, or was shown the door from radio, as I like to say. It's a certain badge of honor to be fired from radio. But I'd always done nonprofit work. So I was working at Blue Bear School of Music. I was their development director, and I had been on their board previous to that. And the band had just started their foundation at that time, and everything really came together perfectly because I'd moved to the North Bay. I was very close to headquarters, knew the Metallica team, knew what they needed on the philanthropy side of things. So I applied, and now I'm the director of philanthropy for the band's nonprofit arm, which is all within my hands. And as I've been doing this work since 2019 with the band. And as things evolved, Steph and I got to know each other. And when we started talking about doing the podcast, it was kind of a no-brainer that Steph and I could work very well together on this project and have a good time doing it. Yeah.
That's great. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, actually, since you brought it up, I really want to talk. I want our listeners to understand a little bit more about All Within My Hands, because I've been on the mailing list for a long time, and then all of a sudden I start to see this, AWMH, emails coming in. It's like, well, what's that all about? I don't know. And then recently I see, well, they just got almost another $2 million set there, and the schools you work with, you just added another 11 schools, one of which is in Orlando, not too far from where Jackson and I met 30 years ago. One of them is in Elizabethtown, Kentucky, just down the road from where I am here. So can you kind of tell folks a little bit about all the good work that you're doing and what it's all about?
Yeah, absolutely. So in I guess it was technically 2017 is when the foundation officially formed and became a 501c3.
Okay.
And as you guys know, the band has always given back to charity. They did it quietly before, social media had become a thing. They were always giving back to communities where they stopped on tour, and feeding the hungry. That was always a thing they wanted to do. But in 2017, they said, let's make this more official. We're seeing the relationship with our fans grow even more deeply through social media. We can harness that. We can get Metallica fans involved in philanthropy the way we are. And so they decided to really pick a focus for the foundation, and that was fight against hunger. We added workforce education. That's the trade education you were just referring to in Orlando and in Kentucky. And then critical local services that covers disaster relief. So that's the goal of the foundation, is to stay focused on those 3 things. And over the past, what are we in 6 years for the foundation? We've given back upwards of $6 million towards workforce education, specifically for trade education.
Wow.
Upwards of nearly $3 million for food insecurity, and around the same for disaster relief. So the band is very engaged in this. They stay very involved in what we do for the foundation, and we take board votes on every gift that we give. And then the Metallica Scholars, that for us is kind of the crown jewel, because we're really seeing the impact of that here in the States. Like you said, we're now in 43 community colleges across the United States, 42 community colleges across the United States, 33 states. And by the end of this year, we will have supported 6,000 students who are learning a trade or upskilling their trade. So we're pretty proud.
That's amazing.
And that's really the cool part about this is I didn't really know that much about this charity until I started looking at it for this podcast. And you said that they did. I mean, I'd heard of it before, but I really didn't familiarize myself with it. But you said that they kind of wanted to do it silently when they first started and no social media. But it's nice to know that a band like this that's been so successful and so blessed in their career, that they really want to give back and seem like they want to move things forward. I think in this society, we have too many people in places of power that they seem like they just want to swirl things around, not move it forward.
So
it's really cool.
I think, and Renee will obviously correct me if I'm wrong, but I mean, one thing to know about this band is they've been doing stuff charitably for decades. And they have been silent. They've actually turned down any quote unquote publicity options because they didn't want what they were doing to be publicized. But fairly sizable work, I would say. But I think, I mean, Renee, is this right to say? I think everyone has sort of realized that in order, for charity to really sort of take root on a community level, and Metallica is a family, right? And
That's right.
There's many Metallica fans who I think, want to do good and want to give some money, but don't really know where to. It was seen that this was an excellent way of doing it. And I think the key thing is, and I mean, the key thing for me when I was hearing about this charity coming and so on and so forth was that every single dollar that goes in, that you put in, so if you put in $1, right, that whole dollar will go to the designated charity. It's not passed off for expenses. It's not like 15 cents here, 20 cents there. I mean, it isn't like that.
The way it should be.
And quite frankly, I can tell you, just with Renee and I having hung out this weekend, I can tell you that I've never seen anyone as fastidious about not incurring unnecessary expenses as Renee. And I mean that I mean that. I mean, look, sort of tongue in cheek, but I also mean that very sincerely, because it's pretty cool.
It's important.
How many times do we hear stories where, perhaps there are expenses that some of us would perhaps, raise two eyebrows at, right?
There you go.
That does not happen here.
No, and anything that does happen, the band pays for it. It doesn't come out of charitable dollars. The band covers all administrative costs. And I will say this, for many charities, especially small charities, they need those administrative costs. But when you're fortunate as we are to have this entity that is Metallica, to be able to cover that, it's very important to point it out. So thanks, Steph. That was great.
And this in no way, the information on here, it does not come across as anybody bragging or anything. It's more like, hey, this is what we're doing. Help us help them. Let's all move in the same direction.
Renee, am I right in saying that they almost, and certainly not with the heartfelt objectives, which I know they're all very much behind. I mean, there's the James in the workforce, retraining and so on. I mean, it's been well known, but would you not have had to have almost twisted them to be more public about how much they're giving? Because they really don't, they're not about that. They don't want you to know.
Yeah,
and people, Renee has been part of that core of people who's been saying, guys, it's okay. It's okay. It's okay.
Shout it and let other people shout it for us, because
that's right.
The more that know, the better for everyone. And we're also using it as a launching point to get other organizations involved with us specifically. So, if there's we can thank the Carhartts and the Wolverines for partnering with us and seeing that, okay, we have aligned values. It's more important for us to make a larger impact with our two very strong brands working together to let people know what we're doing together. So why not? The more the merrier.
It's quite brilliant from an editorial perspective when you do. I do stories for So What on many of the people who work with or within my hands, and everyone has a story. Number one, right? Every human being has a story. That's a given. Yeah. Some of these people's stories are absolutely insane.
Yeah.
I mean, they are genuinely insane.
Yeah.
I mean, I encourage anyone to look back at Metallica.com and find So What in the fan club area and to have a read of some of the people behind the food banks, the people who organize rebuilding entire communities after they've been ravaged. These are fucking heroic people. I mean, and some of these people have lived lives that your jaw drops. It's really something, and it's great to be able to shine a light on them. And it's also great to meet I met some of the students at Date last year.
The scholars, yeah.
We both did, some of the scholars, and I met some of them, and it was really interesting to have them articulate to me how important it was to have, I guess there's filing fees for certain exams. This was one that stood out to me, Renee. Remember those filing fees? And they were saying like it's $400 or $500 to file. And without this, I would not have been able to afford to do that. And another kid was saying, without this help, I would not have been able to afford, the tanks of gas necessary to get to school. These are very simple bridges to build, but they make such an enormous difference. And I don't know, it certainly hits me. I always, whenever Renee says, hey, we've got a good thing going here, you want to come and cover it? I'm like, absolutely, because those stories are awesome.
Yeah. And a lot of these scholars, well, they've been dealt some bad hands in their lives, but they have persevered. They haven't just said, okay, well, my parents were shitty. I've had problems with drugs, whatever. I got pregnant, that kind of thing. I should just give up. No, they have fought on. And because Metallica inspired them to keep going on with their life, I think it's amazing that the band can then give right back to them and said, you're an inspiration to us. Here's a way to move your life forward.
Well, I think
you don't see it every day.
So for me, the key to what you said there is when you were talking about people who maybe sometimes want to give up. I think there's a very important bridge there, which is that, Metallica fans and Metallica's music and what James Hetfield writes about it literally, can very much be the difference between someone giving up and finding some level of fortitude. He has a voice and a connection and a literary way about him that connects with millions of people in the way that Bob Dylan connects with millions of people.
Absolutely true.
And I've made this comparison before, and a couple of people have chuckled, and to their chagrin, really, or their peril. It's a very accurate comparison, and that's why, you get a Metallica fan who's had a hard time maybe as a student, and then they see that not only this guy who's given them some hope is doing this and being part of this, and they all are. I mean, Rob, Kurt, Lars, everyone is a major part of this. But you know what I'm saying? Yeah. That bridge, wow. How fucking powerful is that? And how cool is that?
It's one thing to me that really comes across on the report that I've heard so far, the first two episodes, is that sense of family. How it's all it's one big family, and to hear the stories that people tell about, I'm like, I'm a big Metallica fan. No, you're not. No, you are not, because there are people who are absolutely 1,000% hardcore fans.
But that's the beauty of the Metallica community, is that those newbies are welcomed as much as the stalwarts. I mean, I think maybe even a decade ago or so, or 20 years ago, there might have been a little more snobbery, but it seems in the last 10, 15 years, it's really opened up to where this is all a welcome. And if it's your first show, you're venerated and applauded by the centurions out there. I've seen that, and I think it's super cool.
It's really cool.
I went to the premiere, the 72 seasons premiere in the movie theaters.
Yeah.
And it was like a Thursday night in Jacksonville, Florida. I'd worked all day. I'm driving up. It's dark. I'm the only one not wearing a Metallica t-shirt. And it pumped. Everybody's pumped. And I'm like, hey, fellas, the band's not going to be here tonight, right? We're just watching this movie. By the end, people are high-fiving. They're yelling. They can't wait for this stuff. And I'm like, this is awesome. It's a family. Like, everybody was friends at the end of that stuff. Yeah. And I didn't have it. I just had a regular shirt. I think I might've had an Ugly American Werewolf shirt on, but it was just like, come on in, let's go. We can all experience this togetger.
Well, and what I was going to say too, in when we were up in East Rutherford at MetLife, just seeing three generations. I talked to a dad. His mom was off at the bathroom, and his son was standing right there, and all three of them came together because his mom was a fan, he was a fan, and now his son is a fan. It was his son's first concert, to be fair, but just incredible. And I happened to be there with a friend who hadn't seen Metallica since they played with Guns N' Roses, and she was, a little intimidated about going into the snake pit. I'm like, come on, it's super, it's fine. It's fine.
Not to mention it's huge now.
It's huge now.
Huge.
Yeah, you actually had some elbow room, which was incredible. But she was so funny. She like everybody else, they move like fish to James wherever he ends up, and they all gather around him. It was incredible. It was great to see her get taken in by it all.
Oh yeah, I'm sure.
You know, in Amsterdam though, I mean, for one thing, James comes out, welcome Metallica family to the first night of the second night. I don't know really what to call it, but we are Metallica and so are you. He always makes a point to say that. And it was like that in my seats, because you come the first night, you don't really know anybody, and you're kind of get to know each other. Come back the second night on Saturday to Johan Cruyff, and they're all like, "Hey, welcome back. Good to see you." We're hugging each other. There's Americans, there's people from Dubai, there's people from all over the Netherlands. And I'm like, this is great.
It never even occurred to me that the seat you bought on Friday was going to be your seat on Sunday, and you would have that even occurred to me that was a possibility. That's awesome.
Yeah.
It was great. Yeah, everyone's there like, oh no, okay, I'll get you a beer. You get me one next time. Yeah, sure. We're
that's
just
great. I love that.
Having fun together.
This word family gets thrown around an awful lot, right? It's become an adjective almost for they're your family. It's like thrown around all the time. Well, in my personal case here, this is a family. I mean, you consider when I met these guys, and you consider how old I am now. Don't let my appearance fool you. I am actually 56.
Yeah, but you were a kid when you met him.
So that's well over half my life. Well over. I was talking to James the other day about turning 60, and we were talking about it, and he's like, it's well over half my life with this. I mean, this is a family, whether we like it or not. It's a family.
That's the way families work. Yeah.
Yes, but it's kind of wonderful. What a journey. There have been a lot of ups. There have been some downs, and I think what this pod is now finally going to give the extended family the chance to do is share their ups and downs, their journeys, their joys,
right on,
their happiness, their sadness. Look, this music has got us all through some sad times as well. There is no getting away from it. I think you will have heard Heather Lonis on Fuel this week. That's a hell of a story. Yeah. And there are others that we will be getting through, and we want people to know that this is the band. Obviously, we're going to have the band on. We're going to be telling stories ourselves. But, this is your chance, as in people listening now, to tell your stories. I mean, if you see us at gigs, stop us, tell us. There's a submission form to drop your audio in.
Right.
Details are in the pod. We're going to build this together, and it's super important. I love hearing stories. I hear them at the Ross Halfin events we're doing. I love to hear them. It's great, and it is humbling. And we all walk the same path, right? We all have the same experiences. So come up and share them with us. That is definitely what is the major driver for this. Well,
and they're trying to get more experience for people, even if you can't make it to the show. Like Action said, he went to the premiere at a movie theater. Right. The Arlington shows are going to be broadcast all around the United States here at the end of the month, right? Yeah.
I know.
So Mac, that's a super important point. I mean, it's great, but to jump off that, it doesn't matter if you've never been able to get to a show. If you put that fucking album on in your car, in your bedroom, in your happiest hour, in your darkest hour, and it does something for you and it gets you through, or if it just makes you, as we joked about, clean the kitchen quicker, the experience. That's, attendance is not mandatory. Yeah. But the experience of the music is. So share it with us.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love that Metallica does this, that when you go to a show, you can order, the CDs or the albums, from, or even the MP3s from the show, which if you go to the show, it's a great souvenir to remember that. But if you can't go to the show, then you can still experience what they were like live, and I don't understand why more bands don't do it. I'm like, it just makes you more money and it brings the fans closer to you. What's the issue?
Because a lot of other bands, I speak generally when I say this, I don't think many bands are led by their greatest fan. And I think
you go.
Metallica was, is the greatest fan of Metallica helped form Metallica. The greatest fan of Metallica continues to drive Metallica. The greatest fan of Metallica gave Renee and I, his blessing.
Right.
I don't need to name him. You know who he is. And, everything that these guys do, to your point, live recordings and so on and so forth, that's driven by the greatest fan that Metallica has. So I don't know how many other bands, are led by their greatest fan.
I hear you.
We're lucky.
It's amazing.
Hi guys, this is Chris Slade, drummer of AC/DC and many others, and you're listening to the ugly, really ugly, Werewolf in London.
And the tour, for those who haven't seen it yet or haven't been there yet, the stage is epic. It's unbelievable. The 8 towers that have these like cylindrical screens on them, you guys were talking about, it's tons, and each one is tons and tons of metal and technology, but it makes for, and especially when they can kind of swirl around, they can kind of do videos and effects and swirl, it makes for an amazing show. But I also wanted to talk about the boys themselves. I think they look amazing. Like, they're in great shape.
Oh yeah.
James is in killer shape. And I was kind of curious, do they all have one wardrobe person, or do they each get their own? Because they all obviously have their own style.
Foster and Martha.
Yep.
The queens of the dressing room area. They do a great job making it feel like home for the guys, and they also do a great job making sure the guys look good. Right. Shelley, the mighty Shelley Venman helps with Kirk as well. Okay. So you've probably got 2 or 3 people just, making sure everyone's got the clothes that they need and feeling good about how they look and so on and so forth, and making sure there's always a change of this and an extra pair of those and whatever. It's pretty low key. Albeit, I have to say that if there is a lead guitarist in rock having more fun than Kirk Hammett right now,
who is he? Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
He is just fucking rock starring out, isn't he? I mean,
he's having a blast.
Isn't he having a blast?
Yeah.
He just is having. He's doing his thing with an A, right? And he is, and it's amazing. And he looks, that guy. I mean, I've joked about this many times. So that guy's like Benjamin Button. I mean, you look at pictures of him from back in the day, and you're like, mate, that facial hair is suspect to say the least.
Oh my god!
But now this guy, he looks like a fucking god. It's like, what happened? You're getting older and you look better. Like, what deal did you make? But yeah, they all look great, and they work very hard for it. They train. They kind of train for this. They treat themselves like athletes.
They look like
but everyone who buys a ticket, he's getting every cent's worth from them. They're doing everything they can to do the best show. And I don't know about you, Renee, it gives me a great sense of pride, and it does push you the extra mile to do what you can do in my world, and I'm sure in yours, because they fucking do. They give it. They don't pull any punches. They're giving it the best they can.
Yeah, there was a clip of Kirk goes and he picks up the drumsticks, and because there's more than one drum kit, and he starts playing, and Lars just looks at him and are we going to do this again? So, and he just takes his guitar off and gives it to Lars, and they're just fooling around, but it looks like they're having a great time. Yeah. It's not just a show; it's people who are friendly with each other, and that comes through in the performance.
Yeah, they have a connection and a chemistry that I think it's bigger than all of them. And, it makes me chuckle every few years. You get people saying, well, will they keep this up? Can they do it? Sometimes, like, look, it's probably beyond their control in the sense of they have to do this. It seems to me, in my observation, it's driven by a greater force than just wanting to or not. I mean, I guess that they will turn around to me and say, shut up, Steph. There's a physical aspect to this as well. and physicality is going to be a driver, but
they don't do it for money anymore. It's not because we need to make money. That's got nothing to do with it anymore.
This band, I mean, and people talked about Load and Reload being sellouts and all that. What a load of absolute bollocks! If you were going to sell out off the Black Album, you'd have made the Black Album too.
That's right.
Mm-hmm.
You'd have copied every song and tried to write the new Enter Sandman, and they most certainly went the opposite way. So I never take that stuff seriously. People do sometimes say that the weirdest of things.
I agree.
Well, the fact that they could just go out and tour a massive tour just on their back catalog, but no, they're putting out new music. They want to move forward. They want to put out a record. That's outstanding. Like, I didn't know what I was going to get when I went to that premiere, and I just walked out of there like, well, we're just going to have to grab that as soon as it comes out because that was awesome.
I know.
Best record they made in decades.
Yeah. And I don't know if you had the same experience I did, but it was like one song after the other. I was like, well, no, I like that one even more.
Yeah.
Now I like that one even more.
Yeah,
how are they doing this?
And to me, when they went into the first time I'd ever heard Lux Eternal, where he's doing like the kind of the Motorheady beat, I'm like, this is fantastic. I'm standing up cheering. I'm like, okay, I understand this is a movie and they're not here, but I'm cheering anyway. We're standing up, and it was just so much energy. And it, to your point about how they have to do this, like they have to write these songs, they have to put them out because it has to happen. It's inside them. They're not on coast mode. They're on full speed ahead mode.
That's right.
And I think what's fascinating with James and Lars is that they both need each other as collaborators. I don't ever see them, I personally, look, who knows, they might fool us all, but I don't know if solo stuff is really in their interest or what they like to do. I mean, they have a bond and a chemistry, and, and I mean, the four of them do. I mean, Rob is such a river between them now. He's such a connecting force, and there's all these great places for Kirk to come in and do what he does, and everyone understands it. Everyone gets it. The flow is tremendous with them creatively. It really is.
And they're very intelligent. I don't think they get enough. I mean, I find James to be incredibly articulate, a very smart man, and he doesn't get, because like, oh, he's a heavy metal guy or whatever, like, but listen to what he's saying. I mean, listen to what he says about not only his songs, but about life and what's out there. Yes, he's grown up since he was 20 years old, and every fifth or sixth word isn't fuck or whatever. But no, this is a smart man who has something to say. There's a reason they're so successful.
Yeah, I can talk to this, Renee, if you want, or you
go.
might have something to say. I mean, I think we all know that people make snap judgments based on very, very precarious optics, right? And I think that James has been a victim of that to an extent over the decades.
Absolutely.
I don't think he cares. I don't think the millions and millions of people who pay attention to what he's talking about care. I think he's incredibly brave. I don't know if he would necessarily agree or not. I don't know. I don't care either if he does or not. But I think he's incredibly brave because his journey is a journey that millions of people experience and never, ever feel that they can emotionally articulate for fear of ridicule or for fear of being judged or whatever.
Yes.
And there he is, the biggest, arguably the biggest hard rock star in the world, if not one of the biggest rock stars in the world. And he is showing himself, and he is telling you that, this is my journey. And I'm sure, millions of you are on the same one. I wonder how many guys in their tank tops, and I'm going to go cliche here, with grease under their fingernails and beer on their breath, have sat and listened to him and thought, fuck, what the fuck am I doing? If that dude can do it, maybe I can. Maybe I can talk to my friend and say, I feel like I'm fucking up here. Nah, he's incredibly. He's
special.
brave.
Yeah, he's special.
And Lars is one of the great communicators of our time. Rob and Kirk, incredibly musically articulate, warm, funny, engaging. Yeah, these are smart fucking guys, and I wouldn't have anyone say any less. And if they did, more fool them. Yeah, I mean, really.
Well, you speak of Rob. I mean, he was on the most recent episode, which came out, I guess, yesterday as we're recording this.
Yeah.
He said something about how he and Kirk are working up some new 90-second jams, kind of spur of the moment they're going to be sharing. Could you just tell our listeners a little bit about what he was talking about?
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty much what it says on the tin. I mean, him and Kirk, they got into these jams, jamming together on stage during the last tour, and it was a much more formed and articulated section where they would pick a song that suited or was from the city that they were in. So, for example, in Manchester, it's Stone Roses, I believe, is "I Want to Be Adored." That they put. So they would pick and if they're in Poland, they pick a Polish band, and they would sit and they would work a cover song of a local favorite. So on this tour, as you observed already, huge stage, huge production, 4 drum kits. That tells you already it's a massive stage, right? I think they were trying to figure out how best to really kind of get the show to flow and also to be able to flow with it.
Yeah.
And so there were a lot of intro tapes to help people get breaks and whatever, get a drink of water. It was decided, hey, why don't you guys cook some stuff up? And so Rob and Kirk said, great, we'll make it a little looser. We'll make it a little more jam oriented. These guys have hundreds of ideas that we never hear or that never see the light of day. And, Rob and Kirk have decided to go into their cupboard and put a few together and
have
throw
a little
them together.
fun.
Yeah. And they put them together, pretty tight to the show.
Yeah. And I think an hour before sometimes.
Yeah. RT being one of the hardest working professional musicians I've ever seen in my life. And again, this is all going to seem hyperbolic, and that's fine. I understand that people think, oh, you work with him, you will say this. This fucking guy, I mean, he works all the time. I mean, he really does. He's always jamming. He's always practicing. So it's a fact, So he's, they're putting together some. I think these things are. I'll make a prediction here for you.
All right.
I predict these things are going to become more formed and tighter as the tour goes on, because I don't think the pair of them can help themselves. I think they're going to get so drawn into it. They're like, come on, G, let's get together in the room the night before and let's put this together. Oh man, come on, let's put another hour of practice. I can see that happening. I really can. As much
I
as
bet you're right. That's exciting.
Well, yeah, those are the standards they set themselves. And those two have a great flow as well. I mean, they surf together, they hang together. Kirk has cooked for Rob before, which he'll be talking about on a future pod at some point. Rob will be talking about Kirk cooking, I should say. It's a very natural thing.
Well, it's fun. I mean, I remember I saw them at Slane Castle in 2019, just not too long after I'd moved to London. We went over to Dublin for it. And Rob comes out and leads the crowd in No Nay Never, an Irish drinking song. I'm like, well, how fun is that? That's great,
Yeah. He's a culture warrior as well. He hoovers it up. He loves to know about what countries are about, their histories, all of it. He loves all that stuff. Lovely. I love him. He's top man. He's actually at this point, he's my rolling buddy on tour. I roll with him and Jeff Bass. So,
all right.
That's super cool.
Well, are you guys in Montreal now? Is they're preparing tonight for show 1 in Montreal?
No, not me. I'm deep in all within my hand stuff right now.
Gotcha. Back on the West Coast.
This is actually one of the only shows on this leg that I'm going to have to miss. So no, we are both. It's a rare non-appearance from the pod team this week, but back on it in Arlington.
And yep.
Which is exciting because, I mean, I spent a lot of money to fly back to Amsterdam and go to those 2 shows, so I'm probably not going to go to the Arlington movies. So, but for those who can't make it, this is a big deal to be able to broadcast this across the nation. 2 nights.
Yeah.
Both nights, that's right. Yep.
Both nights. Cool. And in advance, I'm going to say that every single person attending that show, you have my utter respect and admiration. I'll respect and admire because of the heat. I was seeing how hot it's going to be there next week. This is, I mean, think of the crew, Renee. Think of those. Think of those guys. I mean, putting up that stuff. I mean, I've mentioned Chad Kohler, our rigger, before. I mean, lead rigger. I mean, there's a couple of hundred really great crew people who are going to have to put that show up in 105 degrees of heat.
Well, but it's a Jerry World where the Cowboys play, right?
It is. So is there a dome? That's what I was trying to wonder. Can they put
there is a
over?
dome to it. Yeah, it opens at the top, but I mean, either way, it's hot in Dallas. I mean, even just riding in the car with the air conditioning on, it's like a blast furnace up there.
Right. I mean, the thought of the actual little bit going over the top and doming you off, it makes me feel that we might end up like pot stickers. There might be 80,000 pot stickers in there. We might all be steamed into submission. I don't know, but it's going to be crazy. I mean, there's no way it can't be, right? I mean, these shows are crazy anyway, and I'm sure that something's got to play into their heads as to we're playing to over 2,500 movie theaters worldwide. I mean,
wow,
you get
amazing.
a 6-second delay, I was told, at best, if you're lucky. So
Yeah,
if
when
you
they-
flub, you flub. And that's great. I like flubs myself. I think they give a show character, but no musician I know has ever said they like them. So
Yeah, when they did the listening party, they said, "Hey, make sure you stay to the end. Important announcement. Here tonight. Blah blah blah." And I just said to myself, "Simulcast. They're going to do a simulcast, aren't they?" Because they already had everything said. And they said, "Yes, in August, here come." Like, I knew it because there are going to be a ton of people who can't make it to the shows. They're just
right.
They're all over the world. People want to see this, and for as many shows as they're doing, there's still a lot of people that don't get to go. So something like this is, I won't say it's the same thing, but it's the next best thing.
Where are you going to be watching it, Renee?
I was just going to say, I'm going to be Friday. I will be watching it live in Arlington, and then Sunday I'll be home for it. So I'll be watching it from South Carolina.
Very good. Which of course means that we can say that we will be recording together again live from Arlington.
That's right, baby.
Very good.
Nice.
We figured out a way that we could be in the same room as each other and not have the mics feedback. Because if we get the chance, because given the chance, we'd love to record together all the time. It's
all the time.
a lot more fun. I don't know how the wonderful production team would feel about that.
But we like it.
To your point of the 15-minute pod, we have a brilliant production team who help. Well, Renee is very disciplined. I'm probably a little less disciplined, but keep us in check.
That's right.
I'd definitely be going for the full waffle, given half a chance.
Hey, this is Scott Holiday from the Rival Sons. You're listening to the Ugly American Werewolf in London.
The show is great. We're so glad you're doing it. We're so glad that you're part of the Pantheon family. Why don't you tell our listeners, where they can find you on social or anything about the show that might help spread the word?
Well, there's always, Metallica.com is always the place where you will get the most information. I would just suggest that for those who want to know, what we're doing, just subscribe to us. We're going to give you the direct information. Go to your favorite podcast supplier. Everyone has their favorite platform. Subscribe. You'll hear us weekly, giving you all the information. And I think we pop up on the socials, the band socials here and there. But Metallica.com is always your hob. Mm-hmm. That's actually a Northern English sandwich is a hob. So
it's a hob?
It's not that. Metallica.com is your hub for everything to do with Metallica. And, there's going to be, if there's any outstanding podcast news, you'll see it there as well. And as the journey grows and as the family grows bigger and bigger, I'm sure, our tentacles will spread further and further. Who knows? They may even allow us our own Instagram account. I can just know that if some of the poor team are hearing that, they're just like, why don't you shut up? But seriously, Metallica.com for all your news, and please do subscribe to us on, your favorite pod platform. Did I miss?
Yeah, we appreciate it. Nope, you didn't miss a thing. Yeah.
Okay.
That's great. We thank you guys for having us on. This was really cool. It's nice to get to know you guys, fellow podcasters.
Yes, welcome to the Pantheon family.
Thank you. Yeah. Thank you. We're happy to be here.
Beautiful, beautiful radio voice, Renee. Thank you so much.
See, Renee knits it all together. But she does have that voice. She was you were an automobile, were you not?
I was a Chevron talking car.
Yeah,
yes, I remember that one.
Chevron talking car. I have to say, surely a Ferrari.
I think it was a Lexus.
There you go, a Lexus,
there you go.
which is the Japanese. The Lexus is the Japanese Ferrari. Let's be fair. So that's fair enough, right?
I'll tell that to my wife when she comes home in her Lexus tonight.
There you go. Yeah, I mean, it wasn't just a Corolla, right? They gave you the top drawer.
Right. That's right.
Very nice.
Very good.
Well, thank you both so much for coming on. All the best of luck with the show and with the tour. It's epic. It's amazing. I'm so glad you're a part of it.
Great.
And right back at you. Keep up the good work, you guys.
All right. Thanks, guys.
Thanks
See you
so
later.
Much.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye. So cool to be able to talk to those guys. Their show is awesome, but what they're doing, especially with All Within My Hands, fantastic. Amazing.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's good, and I know they don't want to make a huge deal out of the fact that they do charitable things, but to put the word out, to get other people involved, I think it's really good, and to know that you get to read the stories. It's an actual person that you're connecting with, and not just money to some cause. It's really good.
So that's the Met Report. Get it wherever you get your podcast.
What a fun chat that was with Steffan Chirazi and Renee Richardson of the Met Report, the new podcast from Metallica World Headquarters, going to be featuring members of the band, important people in their circle, members of the crew, members of the Metallica family, and highlighting some of the great work they're doing with the All Within My Hands Foundation, helping thousands and thousands of people around the U.S. gain more technical skills, get relief from natural disasters, and make sure they're fed. Amazing work that Renee and everyone involved with the foundation are doing. So cool to talk to both of them. And Steffan's been with the band for decades, doing a lot of articles and journalism around the world. Renee, kind of a legend in the San Francisco area with K-Fog, amazing career, and now heading up this amazing organization with the help of Metallica. It's fantastic. We're so proud to have them as part of the Pantheon family, and you can support them by downloading and subscribing wherever you get your podcasts. And you can help the Ugly American Werewolf in London here the same way. Download and subscribe wherever you get your podcast. You can also order your records from rarevinyl.com and use the code UGLY to save yourself 10% off all your orders. So you want that rare Metallica box set, you want the latest on vinyl, you want some import that you can only find in Europe. They've got over 250,000 items in stock. Use code UGLY, save yourself 10%. You can also go to the Ugly American Werewolf store. You can find it on Twitter. It's at ugly_werewolf. Click on the shop, get yourself a t-shirt, get yourself a mug, some stickers. Show your pride in the wolf. And if you buy something, hey, send us a picture of it. We want to show it to everybody on social media. So as usual, folks, we want to know, did we get something right? Did we get something wrong? Did we miss the point? Did we leave out your favorite part? Let us know. Email us at uglyamericanwerewolf@gmail.com. Let us know the albums, the bands, the concerts, the DVDs, the books, the rock properties you want to hear about. And if you're a subscriber, hey, give us a positive review online, maybe a 5-star. It just helps us find more rock and roll fans like you and helps us grow our show. And this is a great, fun show for us to do. And we've got some more fun stuff lined up for you. I can't let the cat out of the bag. We've got some more cool collaborations coming up, some interviews coming up, and of course, some classic albums to review in the near future. So you're just going to have to subscribe wherever you get your podcasts to find out who we're going to be talking with next or which records we're going to be doing. And until next time, to all you rock and rollers all around the world, be cool and keep doing what you do to keep rock alive.